much. So yep, I'm back on the Pan America. I finally got it going after about 2 weeks of being down, and a lot of that had to do with waiting on parts from Harley-Davidson. There was a couple things that ended up being back ordered, like the rear sprocket, which luckily I have a good dealership who was able to find a sprocket in stock at another dealership and have it shipped, but it still took a while to get all the parts. So the bike's been down for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. So it's a Thursday afternoon after work, so it's going to be a pretty short ride, but I had to get on the bike because I miss this bike so much. It's finally up and going, and I haven't had a chance to ride it just because work's been so busy. But just because the Pan America's been down, it's not like I haven't been riding. I still have that WR250R that I've been riding around, and don't get me wrong, the bike's super fun. I love that bike. It's a cool little bike, great little dirt bike. I've been taking it up to Forest Hill and taking in some dirt and some trails that I wouldn't normally take, and I don't need to be in 6th gear. What is wrong with me? Yeah, I've been going, just messing around up in the dirt with that thing, because it's a dual sport. Might as well dual sport it. I don't know. But I ran into a guy up there, up in Forest Hill. He was out on one of his, I think it was on a KTM. And we got to talking about big ADV bikes and things like that. And I told him that, you know, I had the Pan America and I've had it for this amount of time and blah, 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 blah. And he got to asking a couple questions. And he was real curious about it. He's like, I like those things, but man, I don't know. They got a little bit of a reputation. And he's not wrong. They do have a reputation. Those first gens, mine included, they had a little bit of a reputation for not being so great. Like, you hear it all the time, the guys that own some of these early ones, they're like, yeah, I loved the bike when it ran, but it just was in the shop all the time, so I had to trade it in. And unfortunately, there were a few people that did have that experience with the bike. And it is unfortunate, but I mean, yeah, I'd be pissed too if my bike wasn't running correctly. So yeah, the Pan America did have some little bit of hiccups in the beginning, and I think they're still kind of working some of those things out. For the most part, they do have a decent grip on what's going on with them and the fixes for them. And from what I can tell, they really are pushing new parts on the newer models to fix those things. Like, I know that they redesigned the fuel pumps, which is a major problem. Mine goes out, I think I'm on my 4th one. There was a guy I saw on one of the groups that had close to 100,000 miles on his Pan America, his 21. So they are out there. People are putting those miles in. They are traveling with them. Because that was some impressive miles. That guy was just like, yeah, I'm on like my 7th fuel pump. You know, they just go out. They have their issues. They have their problems. But they're nothing too major. Well, mine haven't been major. There has been some major issues with some of these 21s. But anyways, yeah, they did get a little bit of a reputation when it came to reliability, unfortunately. And he was talking about how he had a Harley and how the Pan America would be a cool little addition, and I would trade in his current ADV bike for a Harley ADV bike, because that's just cool that Harley made one, because it's not like anything that they've made before. The engine, the whole look of the bike, the way the bike rides, the way the engine is. I mean, this bike is so quick, and it just revs different, and it's completely different from anything they've ever done. And yeah, you can argue the whole Buell thing. I know, Buell. Yeah, okay, I get it. But when this thing came out, it was like the numbers that they were advertising for it and everything like that. I was like, okay, just really? That's kind of cool. I know that the sales numbers kind of show that. A lot of people thought that was cool too, because the Pan America did really well. It sold really well in its first year. But because they moved so many Pan Americas, you were bound to get those first gen hiccups that really didn't do the reputation of the Pan America any favors. And you're going to hear the guys that have problems more than you will about the guys that are putting hundreds of thousand miles on these things and never having an issue. You're going to hear them louder than you're going to hear the guys that don't have problems. And I get it. It's frustrating. I'd be frustrated too. And sorry, I know I'm riding into the sun. My bad. But even after, I don't know, how long has it been? I've had this thing for almost 4 years now, and I still get the random guys that come up and they come to ask about the bike, and a lot of them are like, what kind of bike is that? And you tell them it's a Harley, and they're kind of like, what? No, it's not. You know, they have that reaction to it. It's not a normal Harley. It doesn't look like a normal Harley. It doesn't sound like a normal Harley. I think that's part of what makes it awesome. Not only is it a conversation starter, and you know, I'm a pretty antisocial person and kind of a loner, and I like riding by myself the majority of the time. But when people come up and they want to talk to you about common I don't know, hobbies or things that they're into. Like, it's real easy for me to have a conversation with someone that likes bikes and someone that rides bikes. And yeah, you're going to get the old guy that's just like, oh yeah, I had a Triumph back in the 60s. Like, that story never changes. And some of those old guys are cool. Like, they're cool to talk to. They got some fun stories, and it's just cool to hear about that different era of riding. But when you say, like, yeah, it's a Harley, it blows their mind on it because it's so different. And I think that's part of what makes it so awesome. And I know that I'm not the only one that thinks this bike is awesome. You know, you hear even the guys that have problems with their Pan Americas and some of the major ones, like, yeah, they're kind of frustrated. Well, no, they're not kind of. They are frustrated with maybe the service that they get or the lack of, I don't know, just willingness to help a guy out in some of these dealerships. Because the dealerships, I think, played a major role in the reputation of the bike. Because you have a dealership that doesn't really care about keeping people on the road or doesn't care about their customers in general, it's gonna affect the reputation quite a bit. So a couple of things that makes the bike so awesome and why I love this bike so much is just, first off, it's just the way it looks. I personally love the way it looks. I know a lot of people don't quite like the way that the Pan America looks, but I guess it's just all personal preference, I guess. But you can't help but still get that reaction when someone comes up to you and starts talking to you about the bike and asking you questions. And the first question, without fail, normally will be, what kind of bike is that? I kind of like that about it. You know, they have to ask, like, what kind of bike is it? You know, I don't have any badges or anything on the bike, so they can't really see that bar and shield. I think I have one tiny little thing that says Harley on it. But I personally love the way it looks. I just think it looks super aggressive and super badass. And sorry, the sun's in your face again. The other thing that I love about this bike, and I mean super love, and I missed it. I missed the riding this bike around, is the way it rides. You know, the suspension, the higher suspension, the way that it just soaks everything up, especially if you have the special. I've taken the special out a few times. This is not the special, this is the standard. The special, just being able to push the button, put it in a mode, and it adjusts the suspension for whatever mode it's in, that's pretty awesome. And the way it revs is it revs way higher than any Harley. And it's in its happy place, right about at 5 or 6,000 RPM. You know, that's its happy place. That's where you can tell where it just wants to go. And I think that reason alone is why the ST is doing so well right now, because they're selling quite a few of those STs. My current dealership really can't keep an ST in stock because you have those guys, this is just my opinion on what's happened, you got those, I don't know, younger dudes, or maybe not even younger dudes, but you got guys that they're coming off of sport bikes and they're not quite ready to give up sport bike performance and speed and all that kind of stuff that they're used to, because that's just how they like to ride. And they're not quite adventure guys. They don't really care about going off-road, but they know what the Pan America does and how the Pan America is, and they're test riding the Pan America ST, and they're like, this thing's awesome, because that ST handles like a street bike. You know, with that little 17-inch front tire, it is, man, that thing handles way different than this thing. And it has a little bit less suspension, so it doesn't need that high ground clearance, and it has all these little changes, and it's a little shorter, but people are seeing that, and they're getting on them, and they're starting to ride them. And I love the fact that the Pan America is starting to pick up a little bit more traction now that the ST's out. It's getting more people on it. The other thing that I absolutely love about the bike and why I think it's awesome, and a lot of people are going to kind of fight me on this because it's like, hey, it's unnecessary. And like, I love the rider modes on this thing. The off-road mode, the off-road plus mode, the sport mode, even rain mode. That's come in handy a couple times, actually. I remember there was time where I was coming back from Utah and I was coming back home. I was coming down Donner Summit, and I got caught in a freezing torrential downpour. So having that rain mode, yeah, it was way more comforting. Like, I was freezing and soaked. I didn't have any rain gear on because I wasn't expecting to get rained on in August, and it was freezing. But yeah, that rain mode saved my butt. And it's done that a few times, and it just kind of puts that, all right, I can do this. The off-road mode is super fun. Like I said before, it tones down the dirt quite a bit. I was fairly new to dirt riding when I got on the Pan America. It was something that I wanted to do. You know, I love riding on dirt, and it's just been so much fun. And the dirt road, the off-road mode, whatever you want to call it, it helps with that. So I think it's a great bike to learn dirt on. Now, I got the WR to learn dirt a little better and to be a little bit more aggressive and learn more skills, which I highly recommend doing. getting a small dual sport and taking that thing off-road and learning dirt that way is a great way to learn dirt. But you can do it with this off-road mode, and you can turn all that stuff off. If you're rowdy and you got the confidence to do it and turn off everything almost and just ride it like a giant dirt bike, you can do that too. So it's got such a versatility in the whole platform where you can take it on long highway trips and be super comfortable. You can take it down dirt roads and forest roads and do BDR or whatever. It's just got the versatility to do it. I know you don't necessarily need a Pan America or an ADV bike to ride some of those roads. If you ever watch $1 Million Bogan, he does some of the craziest stuff with his I think his Road King, and I know that thing's been modded out a bit, but I love that. I love seeing that. I love seeing weird bikes and weird situations. It's just all part of riding, and that's the stuff that I enjoy about it. So when I picked up a Pan America, I wanted a bike that was a little more purpose built than, you know, riding a Road King on the dirt. But anyways, so it's been almost 4 years since I've bought the Pan America. I bought it in November of 2020. No, bought it in November of 2021. And it is almost November of 2025 right now. And I got about 53,000 miles on this bike. And I still love it. It is still the most fun bike I've ever owned and ridden. One thing I have to say, that if you ever get a Pan America, if you're looking to buy a Pan America, it's a really good idea to look into the warranty, to look into buying an aftermarket warranty, just because it's still fairly new to the whole scene. It's still fairly new. The whole platform is only 4 years old. So get the warranty, have a little bit more peace of mind when it comes to that. Replace all your batteries regularly. That's a big thing for this. If you do those two things, I think you'll be fine. There are a couple of things to look out for. Get on the forums. Get on some of the groups that are just about Pan Americas. They're gonna let you know about those well-known problems, especially with the earlier models that are going on. What to look out for, what to do, what to listen for, because unfortunately that is part of these bikes sometimes. I like to do that with anything that I buy. I just bought how do I say that now? I haven't had this. I just bought a new pew, and before I bought it, I did a ton of research on what it was and what problems that the early models had, and it did have some early model problems. It came out in 2018, and I'm sure that'll give it away to some of you pew guys. It came out in 2018, and it was kind of plagued with some issues, but they did fix those and things like that. It just happens with newer things. Sometimes new models have problems. The Pan America is no different. So these are kind of just a few of the things why I think the Pan America is so awesome. The rider modes are great. It's a great bike to learn how to do dirt on. The way it handles, the way it how comfortable the bike is. Man, I still love this bike 4 years later. I still absolutely am in love with this bike. As far as the future for this bike, I hope I can get it up to 100,000 miles at least, probably more. If I'm going at the same pace I am now, it'll probably take me another 4 years or so to get to that mile marker, but I haven't been riding as much lately just because life. Just haven't really had the time to put as many miles on as I did before. So let me know what you guys love about your Pan Americas. If you guys have a Pan America, if you guys are looking to buy a Pan America, put down in the comments. Let me know what questions you have about the bike. I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And if you could, please subscribe. It does help me out quite a bit. And I'll see you guys later. I think I knew that guy. Things like that. Really? You can't just wait, bro? That was weird. That is a horrible turn. Yeah, this road's a little loud. Probably shouldn't have taken this road. There, that's a little better. A little bit of slower pace on this road. Because that is... We have Donner Pass up here, or Donner Summit. Is that what it's called? I think it's called Donner Summit. Came across this road and there was a tree across it this weekend. I like to do that. Oh, tell me it's still on. Okay.